I think if you're a movie fan, if you've ever seen a movie, there is a chance that you were affected by the films of Rob Reiner. And if you are a person who really watches this stuff, you know that he had one of the kind of legendary runs of any director ever, say between like the early 80s and the early 90s,
90s, yeah.
like classic after classic after classic after classic.
It almost feels like this could be like who directed this?
Joseph Kahn.
Joseph Kahn.
Yeah. Basically, like he's done like, I mean, it kind of shows in the movie, but like music videos.
Okay, yeah, this feels like this could be a calling card for Joseph, maybe stepping up and doing something bigger for the studio.
Yeah, go watch this movie on Netflix. I mean, if you watch any of the Knives Out, you're gonna like it and or love it. But there's so much great stuff in it. It's very funny. Like it's just really, really funny also. What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode 471. My name is Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show, and as always, I'm joined by
Right.
Yeah, that's John. That's John
Yes,
right there.
John.
Out film that came out on Netflix last week. Ronald and John have some physical media points they want to bring up, and then I guess we'll just get into whatever else we've seen, which sounds again like like an episode. John, you had mentioned bringing up a news item that you thought it might be worth paying attention to on tonight's episode.
I mean, yes, I think if you're a movie fan, if you've ever seen a movie, there is a chance that you were affected by the films of Rob Reiner. And if you are a person who really watches this stuff, you know that he had one of the kind of legendary runs of any director ever, say between like the early 80s and the early 90s,
90s, yeah.
Like classic after classic after classic after classic. And so yeah, this weekend there was some horrible news. Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, I believe, were murdered in their home. And the story got worse from there. They were murdered by their son, and there's so much around that's just horrifying to think about. And I don't know that I even have. I mean, I feel very much like I shouldn't know. I feel very voyeuristic with all the news that's been breaking about like they were at Conan O'Brien's holiday party before this happened, like the day before it happened.
Yes,
and there was public fighting going on, and the anyway.
Right, just bad stuff.
I'm not really here to talk about that, but definitely on this show, we have probably extolled the virtues of Rob Reiner's movies at different points. And definitely, like I said, when you look at that run that includes Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, a few Good Men. I mean, like, Princess Bride, all of these films that are sort of, I mean, and we're not the first to point this out, but that are sort of like, okay, what's the best coming of age movie? That's Stand By Me. What's the best mockumentary? That's Spinal Tap. What's the best romantic comedy? That's When Harry Met Sally. What's the best courtroom drama? A Few Good Men. So I mean, I kind of think that, again, the track record that Rob Reiner had speaks for itself. It's almost unusual though, because like very few people outside of like maybe Steven Spielberg and a few other people have had that kind of thing where if you looked at a spell of their career, you would go, holy shit. Yeah. They did all of that between those years and they were just like doing what they do. So
for sure.
I don't know. I mean, it's a horrible tragedy. It's a horrible loss. He was 78, but he was still very, very with it. And people might know him more recently as an activist and a spokesperson for politics that I happen to align with very strongly. But, obviously a lot of people in our current situation don't. But that's, again, sort of beside the point of just the human loss. But this was a very remarkable guy. And by all accounts, Michelle Singer Reiner was as well, not as public facing. But I hear nothing but these glowing reports of just the kind of people that they were. I mean, it feels like a major loss in so many different ways, and it's about the most horrifying way it could happen that you could possibly imagine. And the more you hear about those details, it's impossible not to have your heart broken for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Including their son, Nick, who, though he did something horrible, is obviously someone who's been struggling and has had real challenges. And, that's just, nobody wins in this scenario. So with that horrible stuff in mind, I mean, Ronald, what did that mean to you? I know that you might have been the one who shared the news on our text thread.
Yeah.
It was like Rob Reiner. You're a little bit younger than me, but you sort of must have grown up with him in a similar way.
Yeah, but Rob, it's crazy, John. You mentioned movies. 60% of my friends only know him from New Girl. It's just how it is.
Sure.
That's how good of a career this man has had. The fact that it's so curated in that way, like he is to a lot of people a wholesome dad to Just Dave's character, and in New Girl, he is the insane comic relief that every time he's on screen in that show, he steals the scene. The fact that
he's an extremely funny, or was an extremely funny man. Yes, like in his bones, funny.
The fact that it's segmented like that, the fact that there's so many things that you could know him from, including just being an actor or director, it's insane. And I mean just as in this is one thing that he chose to do at this moment, not to take away from his talent. He's incredibly funny, incredibly talented. I think what made me really sad was just the idea that, like, you don't know when you're gonna go, and for a person who didn't know when he was gonna go, to put out so much in the world that makes us happy is, I mean, you can only hope for one good thing. You named a bunch of things, didn't name New Girl, and I can name probably 10 other things.
Well, I didn't say All in the Family either.
Yeah, All in the
Like,
Family. I was like,
is,
you
know, a monumental, iconic
get out of here.
character.
You know, it's like it's astronomical IMDb. Like, what a history. You know, that people talk about that hyphen in between your birth and death date, and like, what a life. I mean, and that's maybe what makes everybody feel the way that they do. Like, sure, there's a lot of sadness, but man, there's a million things that he made me laugh in that I could think of. And I mean, he was even in a Bear. Like, I was like,
I was saying the most recent.
Get out of here. Like, it's crazy. Like, this man spans across so many decades, and the fact that he probably wasn't anywhere near done.
He just did the Spinal Tap movie, which, even though it wasn't my favorite thing in the world, I think I remember saying on this show, one of my favorite things about it was seeing him show up and play that character of Marty DeBurgi, which I had just realized recently was a combination of, I think I mentioned this on the show too, of Martin Scorsese, Brian De Palma, and Steven Spielberg.
Right.
And then when you look at him and he's got like the ball cap and like the outdoors jacket, like you totally realize the kind of 80s director he was doing a parody of when he did that. But yeah, a guy who had real funny instincts. And again, some of the funniest stuff in the new movie was just seeing him go back into that play box, or that sandbox, I should say, and play around. Yeah, Steve, you haven't said much, but I mean, I know that you must agree on some of these fundamentals of just like, I can only imagine that some of those movies in that stretch we were talking about were movies that got a lot of replay value for you.
I mean, yeah, some of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, honestly, Stand By Me is like a top 5 movie maybe for me of all time. But yeah, I just think, you know, he's kind of like a unicorn in a lot of ways. You know, in Hollywood, you know, a beloved person. You don't see anybody talking negatively about Rob Reiner. And in the past couple of days, seeing like how many people, you know, coming out and just sharing positivity around him and their experiences with him directly, or with his performances, or the movies that he made or produced. I mean, another thing that sometimes gets lost is, like, you know, he was a co-creator and owner of Castle Rock. So like, they produced a ton of incredible films, you know, Shawshank, all of the Stephen King, a lot of the Stephen King properties that came out in the 80s and 90s.
Oh yeah, I didn't even mention Misery, I don't think.
Right, basically from Stand By Me, you know, getting Spielberg's love from screening that movie for him, and his blessing that he basically, I was watching an interview just yesterday reminding me of reading this many years ago, like, that he basically told a story about how showing Stephen King Stand By Me when he was done it, basically like created a relationship with Stephen King at that point through the next decade plus, where, you know, he basically optioned his novels and writing to Castle Rock for like $1, you know, to make the movies, because he really trusted we don't know best, but I mean, yeah, like people talk about Shawshank as like one of their favorite movies of all time, and Rob Reiner had a hand in that too,
Yeah,
among
that's
many
right.
other things, Needful Things, tons of Stephen King product, but. And he's forever kind of connected to Stephen King in that way, and to see Stephen talking about him in the past couple of days is, all the positivity around him is just really great. It's such a tragedy. It's so scary and gross and sad.
Right.
Uh, but I mean, when you can look at somebody's body of work and even to the person he is, um, it's just like a very happy thing to think about. It's a very sad time,
Yeah.
but you look at his work and you look at the man, that he always kind of presented himself to be, and he was such a positive person and on the right side of a lot of conversations, in my opinion, both, even different sides of the political conversation, is a really important thing to keep in mind of like kind of how to deal with this kind of event with, consideration and dignity and grace, and seeing some people that I know are, both in Hollywood and not in Hollywood acknowledge something as negative as this, as that, but still be able to acknowledge, a good person and someone who made some incredible stuff in their career. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like those movies that you listed at the top, John, like that run, and we've talked about that run many times on this podcast. And actually, I think Movie Schmovie actually probably takes credit for putting that out there in the world, that this was the run, maybe to end all runs. But um, because yeah, those movies, like John said, like categorically, arguably some of the best films of all time in those
Yeah.
types of films. Yeah, personally, I don't know what's kind of close to it. But yeah, literally everything he listed, you could make a case for many of those things being one of the best, if not even Misery, like as a Stephen King adaptation, like it's
Yeah, Misery
incredible.
it's one of those movies people
It's
talk
so
about as
good.
like a perfect movie. And I
It
think
really
that like
is.
I saw this great clip that was it was a recent enough clip of him talking about his least favorite shot, maybe in all of his movies, but definitely in Princess Bride.
Oh
And
yeah, the glare.
the lens flare, which a
Yeah.
lot of directors, I mean J.J. Abrams, people like that, they like the stylistic flourish of the lens flare in the
Yeah.
camera. But he said he hated it because it called attention to the fact that this was being filmed.
Filmed.
He said,
Yeah.
I'm trying to create the sense that this is a fairy tale land long ago and far away, and here comes something that reminds you that it's being filmed with a traditional camera.
Wow.
And I just thought that to me feels like it says something about his storytelling and his filmmaking across all these movies, where you might not say he had like a bold style or a way of moving the camera that was really unique or anything, or where he put the camera and staged his shots. But when you think about that goal of like, I want to feel like I'm getting out of the way and you're just seeing what's happening on screen. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, so many of these movies are like incredibly well written, incredibly well
Yeah.
acted, and they're so tonally tight that you imagine at the very least he must have been a very insightful director to sort of let that stuff breathe. If not, someone who was actually creating that stuff the way that directors can work
Right.
with actors to create a certain tone. I mean, what we're talking about is like something that very few people successfully do, which is like hop genres like that and like not repeat themselves like that, you know?
Yeah.
There was a great clip from the Friars roast of him. I think it's from around 2000,
Mm.
where he gets up there and Richard Belzer, I don't know how it happens, but Richard Belzer hands off to Rob Reiner getting up on the mic at his own roast to read the review that Roger Ebert wrote of
Oh
North,
yeah.
which was a critically panned and as a flop
Right.
of Rob Reiner's. And so Rob Reiner reads this vicious review of the movie, which is where Roger Ebert started the review. I hated. I don't know if he said it 6 or 7 times. This movie, which Roger Ebert used later for the name of a book of his negative reviews, you know, but like
Oh,
it was a
wow.
famous bad review that he just said hated like 6 or 7 times. But anyway, Rob Reiner gets up there and reads the whole review, which is full of these vicious snipes at the movie. And the crowd is laughing enough just at Rob Reiner read, you know, the humiliation of him reading that review. And then as everyone's still kind of laughing and they're kind of starting to die down, he says, but you know, if you read between the lines, it's not that bad. And to me, that kind of style of comedy, that just sort of like finding the right line. I mean, let's bear in mind, this guy was Carl Reiner's son. And
Yeah.
Carl Reiner was like Mel Brooks's best buddy. These guys were like, and those guys had remarkable careers too. I mean, Carl Reiner,
my God,
amazing. Kid,
Yeah.
Meathead on All in the Family. He was the first vision I had in my head of a sort of like woke white person, maybe a little performatively woke, but Meathead, Michael on All in the Family, the sort of like hippie son-in-law of Archie Bunker.
Right.
He was right about everything. I mean, like in an obnoxious way, and maybe he was not such a great guy, and they made him into kind of a loser as a character. But that was the first time I remember in my house as a kid, sort of seeing the idea of a super leftist guy standing up to this reactionary Archie Bunker character. And it was, Archie Bunker was kind of the protagonist of the show, so Meathead kind of seemed like the fool in a lot of ways. But I do think it's interesting to note that those were probably Rob Reiner's real politics, and he was bringing some of that to people's dinner tables in a time when, I mean, it's yet another reason I think that All in the Family was probably a groundbreaking show, is that it kind of presented that discussion, that debate that happens across America, over meals, and and like the fact that right now we have a toxic world where it seems like it's almost nostalgic to imagine you could sit down across the table and actually stand the people that disagree with you politically. But at any rate, I just think that's a significant thing too. And you're right, Ronald. We were talking about him as a director, but he as an actor, it's not like he hasn't been great. He just hasn't done a whole lot over the years.
Yeah, also the Wolf of Wall Street. He's in that performance in that. He's just amazing in that.
He's a real scene stealer. Yeah,
Steals it right there. Yeah,
He, he's one of those actors. I don't know how to say this. That's ours. I don't know how. It's like that's actually what happened at work. I was like, did you guys hear about Rob Reiner? And it happens every time. My coworker normally doesn't know the name. He'll type it in and see who the face is. I was like, the father from Wolf of Wall Street. I was like, yeah. I was like, and then he named 6 things that he loved him in. And, I think when somebody does that, he's ours. He's kind of like a people's champion. It's like, it's the fact that we know stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond that he's done, and we can name at least 4 or 5 things from each of those decades is insane.
Yeah.
To have one thing from those decades would be so lucky. But
and it is another thing, you're kind of hinting at this, Ronald, maybe. Robin Williams, Phil Hartman, these are other people who their death is so horrifying to us that it's incongruous with the joy that they represented to us in life. And I think that's, it's something that's really hard to balance. But I think it is very easy. If you're going to say, let's focus on the positive, there's so much positive to focus on here. And the only thing that's sort of like, it does seem like at his age, like a lot of guys go on to direct great movies in their 80s, and so I think that there is a sense of like what might have happened, but you can't look at someone who's had a certain kind of life and say, oh, I feel so robbed, because like, well, there's a tragedy to them being gone, but he that'll do. that career will do for just about anybody. I will just say this too. I heard him on a podcast. This was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. A podcast that I listened to, Never Not Funny, where they just have like an open-ended chat with whoever is on there, and they're very loosey-goosey on that show. And it's often very like almost the opposite of an interview type show. It's like topics that are very sideways, and they get on tangents and trivia things and just stuff that's like if it ever gets too deep, then it feels like, oh, this show's just breaking its format, because it's very loose conversation. Rob Reiner was on there, and it was he was the kind of guy they don't get all the time, and he was so good and so funny. And you would think sometimes a guy at that age and that generation, maybe he gets on a podcast that's real fast and silly, maybe they don't get the tone. Maybe you could feel the little bit of that old man thing kicking in where it's like, I'm not sure what's going on here. I'm here to plug a project. What are these people doing? Right. But he jumped in with the tone so quickly, and you can hear how delighted the people on the show are with how much, like within minutes, he's bragging that he can name all the squares on a Monopoly board from memory, and then they get him to do it.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
And he does it. And within minutes, I think everyone who listens to that show would say forevermore, he seemed like a guy who'd been guesting on that stupid show for years, because instantly he did like a party trick level thing that was just, oh, that's awesome and incredibly unnecessary, but it's just, but anyway, it's just very funny. And it's like at that moment, I was like, it was so heartwarming to hear how sharp he still was and how much he was able to didn't feel like he was trying to keep up with anything. It just really felt like he was in the moment. And a smart, funny guy. So, it's very sad.
Yeah.
And very sad that his daughter is the one that found him and his wife too. That's
my God.
That really added to the tragedy for me.
I'd have been devastating. Man.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine.
So, with that in mind, now let's see if we can possibly segue into a different topic. This is where if we were a television show, we would have like a clip or some music or something, that eased us out of
transitioned.
Yeah.
No, I mean it is what it is, man. Like it's a sad thing, but we're talking about it in a very positive way and about him, and that's all we can really do to keep the focus on that and not, get stuck in how horrible and unnecessary this was. So I mean, So Rob Reiner, thank you for everything you did. We love you, and it's really sad you're gone.
There it
is.
Or it'd be the sad. It'd be the.
That was like the Entertainment Tonight jingle, wasn't it?
That is what I'm doing. So let's get into required viewing.
Yeah, so this week's pick was my doing, and it was trying to beat Ronald to the punch here. Was my choice a film from Joseph Kahn that finally came out on digital called Ick, starring Brandon Routh, Mina Savari. I don't know if anybody else I recognized.
Kind of starring Mina Savari.
Well, she's a name in it from the era that it's relevant, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, so this is like kind of a creature feature type horror comedy about a small town that basically is under invasion from something called the Ick that has been around for a while apparently, and that has turned that picture in the background there kind of looks like the DVD art for like a CW show in the early 2000s.
It does.
And honestly, that would fit right with this movie, I guess, in terms of the when it starts at least. But yeah, so that was my pick, and I'd like to start by asking Ronald what he thought.
It was nuts. Tonally, I think I liked it. I think I liked it.
You think you did?
Yeah. It was sometimes special effects can take me out of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the stuff looked out of this world, and then some stuff looked really strange, like it was sitting on top of the film. But I'd say the majority of it looked really, really good. And it feels like I'm only saying this because it didn't have a huge release. I feel like this could have done really well. Like if it felt like something that we would have been saying, lesser movies have done better, and I feel like this could have been one of those movies that if it were put in the right time, that this could have been kind of a banger of a movie that people would have been like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go see Ick. I heard that, I saw this commercial for this movie, but it was not marketed very well. I remember when it kind of was around and I saw it listed somewhere in the theaters, but we're in a strange time. Like They talked about how few movies were coming out in 2025, and then I see them not really promoting a movie like this that could have done incredibly well. I don't know. I'm a little. I was kind of sad in the middle of watching. I'm like, this is fun enough that a large group could have really enjoyed this movie, and I don't know. I got sad as I'm watching a decently solid movie about the ick that could have felt like it would have been like an internet thing. Like it just
Right.
I don't know, man. This feels like it almost feels like this could be like who directed this?
Joseph Kahn.
Joseph Kahn.
Yeah. Basically, like he's done like, I mean, it kind of shows in the movie, but like music videos.
Okay, yeah. This feels like this could be a calling card for Joseph, maybe stepping up and doing something bigger for a studio. Like it's solid enough. It feels like the way that what I'm about to say is I'm not trying to put it on the same level, but the way that James Gunn's early movies felt, just kind of gross and weird and good sense of humor about it, and
Right.
it's just this could be somebody that could be put in the incubator to make something really cool. This could be a future great maybe if he gets to the right place. And I just feel really sad when I don't know why I keep harping on this, but you see a movie like this, and you like it ain't great, but it could be. I can think of 3 movies I'd swap it out for. I'll put it like that. I'm not even gonna.
Well, what are they? What movies would you swap it out for?
Now you see me, now you don't. That's for one. I'd swap the shit out of
Okay.
it.
You're going very recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like something you watched recently and did
Okay, I
not
gotcha.
like. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah, I got
it's
you.
just the fact that it could be in a good place. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry. I don't mean to talk about that. But yeah, solid enough, cool enough. I can see there being an Ick 2, Electric Boogaloo. I just feel like this could be like a thing. I don't know why I'm harping on the theatrical release. But it makes you wonder, like or this. Imagine this. If it went to Netflix as a Netflix original, people would go ape shit over this movie. It's just placement really matters, man. And it's just this is somebody's life. This is somebody's film. They wrote and did, and it just feels weird that some things just kind of land flat for whatever reason. It feels like Plinko. It's like it's hitting all of these things, but never goes down to the 500. It's like 10. So overall, solid. Wish it were
Okay.
bigger. Yeah.
Good. John.
I don't know if I could ever quite got into the groove with this movie. Like I feel like I thought Brandon Routh was really strong in it.
Me too.
And I really liked his performance. And I thought that should I know the actress's name that played the daughter? Has she been in
Melina
something else?
Polly Weissman.
Oh.
I thought she was good.
She looked
too.
very familiar, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not
She
sure
kinda
what she's
looked
been in.
like
Oh, actually,
brunette,
she was in
Sabrina Carpenter.
Dude, I said the same thing to Aaron. I was like, this girl looks like Sabrina Carpenter. I literally said that. That's so weird.
I'm so loath to say people look like people anymore because that can be a weird thing.
Right.
But like that was definitely something that I was like, yeah, she's got like that, some of that vibe. But I don't know. I think for me,
Hold on, real quick. The thing
Yeah.
that I think she, if known, it's from, and now that I see it, I recognize her from it, is the Lemony Snicket Netflix series.
Oh.
The series of unfortunate events. She's the one.
show.
She's the daughter in it, like the main kid.
Okay.
Well, I must have watched part of or most of a season of that at least.
Yeah, me too.
When it came out, so that would explain something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like the rhythms of I felt like this at the beginning, and I know at the beginning it was like an opening sequence that was taking us through a lot of time, but I felt like the movie was, I mean, in an almost like in an attempt to be exciting, it was not letting any moment land for me. It wasn't letting any gag land. It was like cutting away to the next thing so much. And I felt like that lasted throughout the movie, right down to even some of the deaths. Like they create these incredibly loathsome characters just so they can die. And then when they die, it's like, bleh! And it's like, I like a little cat and mouse or a little rhythm or something. I felt like there wasn't really much rhythm. And I do think the movie tries to explain why suddenly this is happening, as opposed to all these years of it just kind of growing. I like the idea of people not acknowledging it for a long time. But I feel like that was, I don't know, there were so many things about it that I felt like were strong ideas, but never were given time to breathe. And it was like they were afraid of boring us with a formula of how you get into this kind of story, of spending a little bit more time setting up the town and setting up the world and setting up the characters. It was like they were allergic to letting us sit in a moment. And I think that, and there were some points where that made it fun and exciting. And then there were some points where I felt like, oh, I'm just glancing off of these characters. I'm not really getting into it much. But I do think, as I said, Brandon Routh was like, I mean, it's kind of sad to say this because this will curse him for his entire career, but it really was like getting a performance from a young Christopher Reeve that you like, whatever that mixing young Christopher Reeve with shy Tom Cruise in a blender that you get with Brandon Routh. It's very likable. And I think that the fact that he's playing kind of a loser guy, I don't know, there was some fun stuff going on there, and I think he really did a great job with the character. And so I think if you're talking about some of this charm that maybe like almost like midnight movie audiences would latch onto about this movie, Ronald, I think a little bit more of that rhythm and a little bit more of the again, like, not that he needs to be Bruce Campbell, but there's this guy at the center of this movie who really, I think, could play that well, the guy whose luck keeps getting worse and who keeps taking a beating and keeps barely surviving. I think there was a little element of that was there, but it wasn't quite fully pushed over. So I think there's a version of this movie with better pacing and just a little bit more patience with its own concept that would have really worked for me. As it is, I felt like it was fun. And again, I don't know that I'm convinced that it would have been great with audiences, Ronald, but I do think it's weird that a movie like this that seems so much like it's designed to make, like I said, midnight movie audiences jump and squirm and stuff. It seems really strange that this movie exists on a streaming platform where watching this at home alone with the family is just never going to have the same energy as seeing it with the crowd. And I'm sure if this had like a festival screening or two or so, I mean, I'm sure this movie would have been like a great pick for that kind of bill where you've got a room full of people that are ready to kind of interact with the movie. And I also think just the fact that ick now and the ick, it's such a word, it's such a topic that comes up when people talk about dating and stuff now.
Oh yeah.
I think that like that could have been played with more in terms of taking full advantage of the name, But I don't know. It definitely had a lot going for it. And I think especially I agree with what you said, Ronald, regarding the director. Like, this is the kind of movie that if this came out and did okay in theaters and made back its budget and then some, this is the kind of thing that would make studios say, I mean, in the way things used to work, would make studios say, oh, this director with some property or something that people are really excited about could probably do something really amazing, but as it is, I mean, I don't know. What is a success for a movie like this? I don't know. I mean, I guess they can look and see it's a rental, right? It's not playing on any particular streaming platform. So, so, I mean, it is, they can look and see how it does, but I just feel like it will never have that, whatever steam behind it might have had if it could have built up a little bit of a rep in terms of saying, oh, that was a fun movie to see, or that was, it was corny, it was so stupid, but it was a blast. I could see people saying that about this type of movie. So yeah, I mean, I definitely came out of it mostly thinking about Brandon Routh and kind of thinking like, is there a reason why we haven't seen him in more stuff? I mean, like, why did he instantly become kind of a
non-starter?
Right.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem fair. I mean, I think that Batman Returns, Superman Returns, which was not a beloved film, but I do remember at the time people talking about him being, strong and maybe even something of a discovery in that movie, but it didn't really seem like it did anything for him and I don't honestly know what else he's known for, except for I know he did some television stuff in that CW,
The Arrowverse stuff. Yeah.
world. Yeah, he was, I believe, Captain Atom. Maybe I'm wrong about what character he played, but I believe
I think you might be right. Yeah. He was also in Scott Pilgrim.
yeah. Again, doing a little bit of almost
Yeah.
like a self-parody, it felt
Yeah.
like, but like a really
Yeah.
funny performance.
Yeah. No, yeah, I always kind of wonder what happened to him because yeah, the trailer for this and even things I've seen him pop up here and there, like TV shows and things like that. I've always kind of liked him, and kind of rooted for him. But yeah, I liked him a lot in this movie also. Like he definitely is the best part of the movie. No, for sure. And yeah, I think overall I'm pretty much in line with both of you. Like I actually came out of it kind of being like it is kind of all over the place. It's very frantic and like you definitely can kind of feel the style that Joseph Kahn has, even with his music videos, but even other movies that he's directed. Like he did like Bodied and like Torque and maybe one more. But there's a style to his filmmaking and his direction that in some parts of the movie kind of gets really kind of worn out for me, like the quick edits and just jumping all over the place constantly, like never really kind of setting in a scene much at all. But in the end, though, like there's sequences in it where like they're watching The Blob and they're these references to other things that it's kind of where this movie tries to live and kind of with a more comedic tone. But I don't know, overall, like I had fun watching it, and I think that's at the end of the day, like to Ronald's point, it's like if you came across this movie and kind of committed to the hour and a half that it is, I think it moves quick enough. I don't know that it ever feels like it gets a little slow. There's a couple parts where you feel like the movie's already ending, at like 50 minutes in. You're like, well, it can't be over. And like kind
I
of
felt that right around 50 minutes too. I remember looking and
same.
feeling like, well, how much more is this movie going to have in it? And I think that kind of fast pace is part of the reason why that felt that way, don't you think? Like,
Totally agree. Yeah, no, definitely the reason. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think at the end of the day, like to be like kind of a creature feature comedy horror, it was really fun to watch it for me, And again, like I mentioned it when I picked it on the last episode, like I'm an easy mark for like the early aughts, like the pop punk, the emo, that music the soundtrack of this movie is like my 2000, 2 through 6 or 7, like it's every song or concert I went to. It's a lot of the music that my band's music kind of, I wouldn't say sounded like, but it was in that scene. So like it was every little musical cue was was very on the nose, but it kind of worked entirely on me. So I definitely appreciated that much of it, or that part of it that much more, just because that honestly is the kind of music I still listen to. Like it's the kind of music that I like and love. Um, but yeah, and I honestly, like for the most part, a lot of the special effects for like what the movie was made for, I think are pretty creative and look pretty good in general. There's some sequences that are clearly, green screened or just very CG heavy, but there's some kind of fun camera stuff. Some of the kind of the style I talked about earlier works really cool in certain sequences. Like specifically, like there's that one in the trailer, like when he breaks his leg in the football game, like the camera kind of falls down with him as his leg goes the other way on the floor on the field. Again, just camera tricks and things like that I'm sure he is kind of known for with a lot of his music videos. But that style I think just kind of makes a movie like this even more fun. And yeah, I think that's my big takeaway is that like this was a fun movie to me, a very fun movie to watch, and had some good laughs and kind of talking to John's point, like modern society, modern teens, and all the stuff that the certain characters are talking about and how they kind of view the world through certain lens. I thought kind of worked. So yeah, I don't know. This was a fun watch for me. I would definitely, if those kinds of movies are in your sights, this is definitely one to check out because there's something to enjoy with this. I think it was fun to watch.
Lots of like pedophiles in this movie.
Yeah, pedophile. If you're a fan of pedophiles,
If
like
you're a
there's
fan of
lots of them.
teachers and guys at parties that are trying to, trying to get with underage women, then yes, or with girls, I should say, then yeah, this is the movie for you. So that was just an interesting, like, that was such a dark thread to have going through it. But I do think that it's like such a shorthand for like, okay, now you don't care what happens to this person, because we know that they're like a complete sleazebag.
Yeah.
Like that guy at the party, I really wanted to see him suffer longer
Mm.
than he did. But maybe I'm a sadist. And I hope you don't think I'm a sadist when you find out what my pick
Yeah.
is
What John, your next
for
one?
for the next required viewing. This is actually a combination of a couple of things. There's right now in theaters, people will be returning to Pandora to see what's up with those blue-skinned cat people, the Navi and their new friends. And also, recently, people were back in the theaters looking at Wicked for Good, which involves getting back into Oz and maybe looking at Oz from a certain kind of different point of view. And so I thought probably no better time than to go back to 1985 and check out Return to Oz,
Oh.
the sequel slash whatever of. I mean, it's kind of a stylistic reboot, but it is still a sequel in some ways to the kind of cultural import of the Wizard of Oz. Like, this was at some point considered to be a movie that might follow up that movie, and then very quickly they thought, no, this movie's too weird and too dark to be a family film. And there's a little bit of a story around the struggle to get this movie finished and out, and I guess we can talk about that at greater length next week. But this is one that I always remembered for two key reasons. One being what I already mentioned, that it's got a few sequences in it that people remember as uniquely disturbing for a movie they saw when they were very young. A movie
Mm.
that people thought was safe to put on for kids. This was back in that era when a PG movie might have something really disturbing in it. And also, this is a movie that, as a person that loved the Oz books, I remember being excited that this movie was going to kind of go back a little bit more to the feel of the books, and rather than just saying, "Oh, we all know the Wizard of Oz film." So many adaptations of that material have kind of drafted off of that movie and its treatment of the world, which is got a lot of elements of L. Frank Baum's books, but isn't actually as faithful as it could be. So this is both a more, it's got lots of cool practical effects in it and some probably very dated effects. We'll get a chance to see. I think there's some stop motion, almost kind of clay animation in this, as well as just practical characters and puppets, and so it's a lot of different things being thrown at the wall to see if you can follow up a huge classic, a huge fantasy classic like The Wizard of Oz. But it's also kind of trying to do its own thing, and in some ways, I feel like this movie is very aware that the movie The Wiz existed as well. Which I don't know if you know The Wiz.
Yeah.
But that was another one that had like scenes in it that for a young kid were kind of disturbing, but that were just kind of creative fantasy scenes. So yeah, I haven't watched this movie much since it came out. I know I must have seen it since on video, but yeah, when I first saw it, I was 12. And I do remember at the time being excited that certain characters like Jack Pumpkinhead and TikTok the Mechanical Man, some of those characters that were great in the Oz books, that they were finally in a film. So this will be a fun revisit for me. This is a little bit of a nostalgia thing. I don't want to always just go back to films that I remembered liking when I was younger, but you know, we don't do that many 80s. I guess we do a fair amount of 80s movies in this feature. But anyway, I like to pick something around Christmas time. We've done, I think, a couple of those British horror films or anthology films around this time. So I do think you want around Christmas to watch something a little bit spooky. So let's appreciate the spookiness and the creepiness and the old school effects and the imagination of L. Frank Baum. Return to Oz.
Cool.
I believe it is on Disney Plus. And yeah, and then you can rent it on Amazon or Google Play for around $4 or something like that. So
Cool. Disney.
Disney.
Cool. I'm excited about this. I was always afraid to press play on this one. I remember going to Earl's video and seeing this tape and being like, "Not I," said Ronald. Too scary. Too scary, said the coward. Yeah, I was petrified of that cover. I was like, what the fuck kind of movie is this? This is Wizard of Oz. It's crazy.
Yeah, the cover is a cool Drew Struzan painting, isn't it? Isn't it like a Drew Struzan poster?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a couple of the one. Then there's like a live action one that I remember seeing on there as well. That's like the cover to the Arrows one wasn't that the painting. It was like uh it was like the Walt Disney Pictures Presents, and it had them on
It's
the
like all
front.
green, and then it's got like the
Yes,
character. Oh yeah,
that was
yeah,
the one.
that is
I'm like,
that
what?
is not a particularly inviting looking group of characters the way they look on that cover. I see the one you're talking about. Well, there's like the taxidermied moose head that is part of one of the characters that's right in the front. It actually looks kind of rotten almost in this picture, Ronald. So I don't blame you for being a little
Yeah.
creeped out.
So
I
scary.
wish I could say the movie goes easier on that, but I think this movie does have some kind of unsettling characters. But that's what we'll be doing next week.
Cool.
Well,
And then
we'll say that the week after.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yes.
That's an opportunity. We'll be off the week of Christmas, but we'll be back the week of New Year's. So
Yes.
it'll be that week.
Back to close out the year with Return to Oz. And in the meantime, I do say, boy,
I'll do
say, either of you boys know where I might find a murder?
Only in this town where the most murderous murders happen.
Monsignor.
Monsignor.
Did you notice that at one point in this movie, the movie that we're talking about, Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, did you notice at one point Benoit Blanc actually says to Josh O'Connor's character, "Look at me when I'm talking to you," which is totally a Foghorn Leghorn line.
yes.
I know Rian Johnson is way too smart for that not to be completely deliberate. You know?
He mentioned. I heard him on a podcast. I think it was like on film with Kevin McCarthy. I think it's that one. Him and his cousin were on talking about it. I think he literally mentions that line being in there as
really?
a deliberate. I want to say that's he definitely was talking about it on one of them that I listened to, but I've been listening to a bunch of his interviews recently, but I'm pretty sure it was that one.
God, what a great guy! I just love
dude,
Rian
right,
Johnson so
man,
much.
he's up there, man. He's really up the list of like not only people you root for and like you want to like just succeed in every way possible, but like just genuinely love, I think, everything he's done. And yeah, like listening to him talk, he's like just so, he's just like a human being. Like he's humble, he's open-minded, he's like knows how to have a conversation where he doesn't sound like, pretentious, or like he's not open to a conversation that somebody's trying to guide or anything. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I've been listening to like a ton of his interviews this week since watching this, just because I'm so intrigued by the movie and everything about the making of it. But yeah, he's a real one. I'm a big Rian Johnson fan.
Yeah, I totally agree. He seems like a real a real decent guy too. So it's like the fact that he keeps making these kind of big, kind of small movies that like feel like the studios are putting trust in him, but he's also making exactly what he wants to make. I mean, that's just a very cool career to watch, especially if you've been kind of watching his name since Brick, or I remember noticing it on his name on Breaking Bad and stuff like that. Like he's a guy who has been near some really cool things, and a couple of things like Poker Face, which he co-created and had a big hand in. That was a special show. Love it or hate it, The Last Jedi is a really bold, interesting Star Wars film that is an example of somebody really trying to make a good movie that happens to be a Star Wars movie.
Right.
And then you have these Benoit Blanc movies, which are, I mean, I've enjoyed all of them. I know that some people felt like Glass Onion was a little too wacky or something, but I really like the way each one of them takes a different approach, and they're very current and political in a way. Like the first movie is all about these sort of neoliberal rich people who think they're good people, but they're really just in it for the money, and it's not that hard to like connect that to our world. And then Glass Onion was all about tech billionaires and influencers and their kind of vapid effect on things. And this new movie is all about cult of personality and belief and
Yeah.
not just religious belief. I think that's what's really cool about the movie is it gets you thinking about what do you believe versus what do you know. And it doesn't mean do you have a religious faith or do you have a supernatural belief. It just means like what do you put your faith in.
Right.
Because there's characters in this film that have their faith in a religious figure, that have their faith in a person that's guiding them. Even Benoit Blanc is brought in to look at this case by Mila Kunis's character, who like has faith in him. Like she's worshiping at the church of Benoit Blanc in a way to like bring him in, because there's this whole question of can we figure this out before we pin it on the most obvious suspect, who is really the lead of the film. And I thought fantastic in this movie was Josh O'Connor. He's turning out to be really one of my faves, guys. Talk about actors that we love to see and that we kind of root for. I think Josh O'Connor is kind of a remarkable talent. And I think he doesn't have to carry this movie, but in many ways his spirit and what he brings, the humanity he brings to Father Judd in this film really does become like a very, very emotionally affecting thing. And one of the best scenes in the movie is that scene where he's on the phone with the woman trying to get information for the case that they're trying to solve. And then the woman happens to be like, "Oh, Father, while I've got you, do you mind praying for me and my mom?"
Bridget Everett. Yep.
Oh my God. That scene was like beautiful. And you don't have to be a person of faith to see how sweetly this movie treats that idea of A, what gives people comfort, and B, what gets people closer to the truth. Whether it's facts, what's more valuable? Is it a facts or a story that might get you closer to that truth? And I don't have an answer to that question. I like that this movie's poking at it, though.
Yeah, Ronald? He's incredible in this movie.
Got thoughts?
Raised Catholic. So this stuff kind of hit close to home. Went to a bunch of churches. Some were in Latin. Some they didn't face us. I went to a lot. My mom was like, "Let's explore church." One of the things that's really cool about it is the imperfection of this guy, or perceived imperfection. He curses a little bit. He's a little angry. But if you believe in any of the tenets, if you believe in Jesus or any of his group of people were, some of the lesser desired people in society.
You're talking about the Monsignor Wicks's congregation,
the flock.
No, sorry. I should. This bigger picture. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
I'm talking about Jesus Christ was a person that congregated with people that were the lesser desired people in society. And I think that sometimes when people reference this dude, Jesus, they don't think about any of that stuff. He wouldn't be hanging around a square. He didn't hang around squares. He hung around people that had issues, that had things to solve, that had, shit that they had to figure out. And I think that when your more honest portrayals, things like this are introduced, I think these are the best characters, people with issues, with a little bit of anger. And, when I saw this version of anger, I thought about Running Man. And I was like, man, something about this tackling of a person with the anger issues felt a little more closer to home, a little more realistic than the version of Running Man. Running Man was a little bit of an exaggeration, but that was one of the points of the movie that I liked, but I also thought was a little too exaggerated a little bit. Like, I don't think it was done very well in that way. I do, and seeing this version, I guess because this is Rian Johnson, he fucking writes a great script. Seeing this version of someone tackling, anger and a past and things like that felt a little cool the way that it was done. And you're right, man. There were some scenes that broke me too. The one that did it for me, I love that scene that you're referring to, but the end, the confession, the subtlety of she has this grip, and he's like, you could forgive this person, and she just kind of lets go. Like it's a subtle thing, which her balled up fist just kind of lets go, and she's like, I forgive that person. I'm sorry I did this thing, and
Well, also that whole moment is happening because Benoit Blanc realizes it's not his story to tell.
yeah, oh
If
God,
someone's
man,
going to confess, he has to shut up and let them
yeah,
Let them do
confess.
it, right.
So
Yeah,
even he, who, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm a Benoit Blanc. I come into a situation like this and I'm like, oh man, these are stories fit
yeah,
for children, blah, blah, blah. I'm cynical about it. And then
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
also, though, can have my heart warmed by the effect it has on people and the glow people have when they find comfort in something like
for
that.
sure,
So
for
like
sure.
his character's sort of arc in this film is not that he at the end is like a true believer, but he's another guy who has his own set of beliefs and the facts and the figures and stuff.
Oh yeah,
It's
for
cool to
sure.
see him realizing that, like, oh no, this, and even though this movie's supposed to end with me explaining it all, there's someone else who can do that. I just thought that was a really cool character beat, and it really made me feel like, again, like I like the way these movies are not about Benoit Blanc, but I
Yeah.
like that we get little glimpses of his character and who he is and what his story is. I almost hope they never. I hope we get 10 more of these movies, and I almost hope we never find out too much about him.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you watch Slow Horses, there's a similar mystique around the character of Jackson Lamb that Gary Oldman plays, in the sense that he comes in, he knows all the angles, he's ahead of everybody, he's got a tragic background that makes him the way he is, and the story's never really about him, and the little hints and little chipping away you get, you're
Yeah.
like, oh man, this person, there's an answer to that question. But if the writer and the actor ever answer that question for themselves, why is this person this way? Why does he do it like this? Then they're
Yeah.
going to break the spell almost. So it's like, you can't do it. You can't be like, well, this is the one that's all about Benoit Blanc. Even though I'm sure eventually they'll do one where he's accused of a crime or something like that,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's like, you can push that off. There's a sense that that should be the last one, or do you know what I mean? Like, so I think that's really cool that they're able to do that. And I think that it's cool that in all three of the movies, we've had really a main character who wasn't the Daniel Craig character, even though we have so much fun watching him bounce off of somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ronald, you're right. This idea of like the character we're talking about, the confession, the loosening, like it's not just a tangible plot point that this person unclenches their fist.
Yeah.
It's also a spiritual
Yeah.
plot point.
And a story of worthiness as well. Like, this guy is like going through this conflict. He knows that he is in the right place, but is he worthy of it? And
Yeah.
he keeps getting these reassurances, especially through his mentor, played by Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright knows what kind of person he is. He knows that this setting isn't right for him. It doesn't mean that you're not right for the job. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's just a setting. Some people with harder situations may need you because you had a tougher life, because you were quick to punch somebody in the face. That stuff is really cool, man. Like this one feels the most emotional I've gotten about any of them,
Yes.
and the
Same.
most grounded in values that I embrace, and celebratory, and not, this is one of those versions of religion where it doesn't feel like it's making fun of it. Like, look, I'm a former Catholic, and I still am not cynical about it. I don't have it. I don't have it in me. And I think some of it is because I understand it. Like, the older you get, the more things get taken from you, the more you need something to fill that space, and I have a privilege that I have a lot of things.
Well,
Right.
also, you can't scoff at people who need that comfort, because you know how real that
100%.
is. Right. I'm the same way. 'Cause
100%,
I was brought up Methodist, but I was very active in the church when I was a kid, and there was
Right,
talk
right.
of me going into the ministry and shit like that. So I was like, I came by it very honestly, my sort of cynicism about the world. But I'm the same with you, Ronald. Like, I can't stand it when I'm around people who are ignorant about religion, making fun of religion.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, well, no, you don't know enough about it to make fun of it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
You can't be an accurate cynic if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. If you don't know, like, 15 Hail Marys for fucking stealing some candy from your grandma. I mean, like, that's a real thing. Like, it's a thing that you gotta experience. Going in that booth, telling somebody you did something and hear somebody kind of laugh at you because you think this is the end of your life. You're like, I'm going to hell right now. You're like, I stole my
I
grandma's
loved Josh
candy.
Brolin character. I loved his Monsignor Wicks's confessions. The way that he was
Yeah.
just
Oh my
tormented.
Oh
God.
God, that was nuts.
Hilarious.
Literally,
Oh my God.
literally nuts.
I love when he was like, "Oh, I did it that way that you turn your hand upside down." So that he's talking about masturbating. Really, I mean, he's horrible. He's a horrible guy. This Wicks.
yeah.
And gosh, who is he? Who is he supposed to make us think of? A horrible guy who has
Oh,
different
gosh.
people completely under his spell.
Who knows?
And that they say no matter what you do, we'll side with you. I mean, again, Rian Johnson. That's another reason he's brilliant, is because without making it feel too on the nose, he definitely gets at that. Like I said, that cult of personality, and why some people have people laying down their not just their lives but their good sense for somebody.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, Ronald. There is something about having a religious background that makes this kind of exploration really meaningful. Like a lot of movies don't want to grapple with it, and movies feel like they have to come out on one side or the other, and they kind of tip their hand. And I was kind of impressed at how much Rian Johnson, at the end of this movie, you could both parties could watch this movie and come out feeling vindicated. You know, a religious person could say this is a movie that's about belief. In a good way, and a non-religious person could say, yes, this is about acceptance and tolerance of people's beliefs in a good way. So, Steve,
Really
you haven't
cool.
said much. Wake up, dead man.
No, I mean, you guys are running with it. Kind of hit everything I've already felt about it. But I mean, the performances really are what stand out to me. And I mean, I've really liked and or loved all of the Knives Out films. But I do feel like this is maybe my favorite one. I mean, like the first one, Knives Out, and this are kind of like, neck and neck for me.
Yeah.
But this one is doing something. Like the element of humanity that kind of comes through, like in the leads that we follow, whether it was Ana de Armas or Janelle or Josh. It's like, in each of those three films, there are those moments of humanity that really kind of hit hard because they're like in direct counteractive measures to everything else happening with the other characters that are involved in the mystery. But yeah, I mean, the whole way through this movie, I think the performances were just completely engaging and just great casting. The ensemble is incredible. Glenn Close is amazing. As always, she's so consistently great. But I mean, this is like a really special performance. Even at certain parts of the movie, she has a couple scenes that are just incredible.
And she gets to do a lot. Like you could totally see why she was attracted to this part. She gets
and the writing is so good that, like, in those scenes with her and the dialogue, it's just wonderful. And honestly, just to speak to the filmmaking, like Rian Johnson, like we're praising him for like movies that he's made and the nice guy, cool guy that he seems to be. But I mean, there's some really awesome filmmaking. I mean, he's a really great director, like period. Like he's such a great director. Watching how they shot some of these scenes, like where you see the kind of color overlays in certain sequences and how they accomplish that in camera with like plastic film or plastic scene in front of the camera, like these crazy rigs that they made, like watching that be done after watching the movie and wondering as I'm watching the movie, like, oh, that's an awesome shot. How did they do that? Because these are things that are just going through my head as I watch a movie.
The scene where the woman in the flashback like tackles the little girl on the floor of the church,
coming
the way
through the
that's
pews.
framed, it's so cool. It's such
amazing,
a dynamic shot. Yeah,
and honestly, like even that part, that's another thing that like I loved, and and he's kind of done this in other movies too, but like, I mean, other Knives Out films as well, but like, particularly in Knives Out, the first one, like based on who's telling a story, what the flashback looks like, the way it's lit, the way that, like that, the Wick's mother, is framed in the church, with the red, and like her walking in is like out of anger and spite, and just versus like desperation, and like the way that you see that same scene retold at the end of the movie. And just the way that like how he differentiates like the way that those scenes are shot based off of the motivation of the storytelling or who is telling the story. It could be the same person telling it in two different ways.
And why
But
they're telling the story too
exactly,
is
the
another thing.
motivation
Yeah.
is like so important in this movie. But like the filmmaking and all that stuff wrapped up, it was just so great. Um, and honestly, like it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I got to say, like I've already rewatched it. And John, you kind of hit it. Like I'm just like I think I said it in our thread. I was like, I just want one of these every year. I just want to
Mm.
watch these. You know, like these stories are so fun to watch. And he's such a great filmmaker, and they managed to put together the most incredible ensembles that you could think of while finding like gems of performances and or actresses that are really kind of star making turns. Like Josh O'Connor was incredible in Challengers, but he's like amazing in this. Like he is like
Yeah.
to see this and then to see a trailer for Disclosure Day where he's a star of a Steven Spielberg summer alien blockbuster. You're like, okay, this is the guy's moment right now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is his chance of being that kind of, star, I guess.
He was
But
even
I'm
charming on Saturday Night Live this last
Yeah, he
week.
was great. He was
Yeah.
great on Saturday Night Live. But he's just like he's really great in this movie. But yeah, this is like a must see Netflix. Like I don't know how it plays out in terms of its performance on Netflix. I mean, they got their little run in theaters, non AMC Regal stuff. The couple weeks before it came out on Netflix, which I'm happy that they did that. Um, but God, go watch this movie on Netflix. I mean, if you've watched any of the Knives Out, you're gonna like it and or love it. But there's so much great stuff in it. It's very funny. Like it's just really, really funny also. And
But
the mission,
in a grounded way. Like if Glass Onion was a little more heightened, this one is a little bit more like the humor is that kind of honestly some of my favorite humor is little character notes that come out
yeah.
in a story that's more grounded. He's got some great like that moment when they're in the office and they find the code and he and the Father Judd both Benoit Blanc and Father Judd both realize that the little snow globe thing or
Yes.
whatever that might be at the heart of it, but they don't want
Yes.
anyone else to find it, and they
Yes.
both like try to cover it up. Like little
They like
character
stand in
moments.
front of it. Yeah, like
And then like moments later is when that phone call happens. It's like
Right.
the tonal shifting. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot. We talk a lot about tonal shifting on this show. I think Rian Johnson is one of those guys who makes it look easy, makes it look
Totally
like he didn't
agree.
even do anything. And I mean, the movie I was thinking about in relation to this movie might be kind of crazy, but when you're talking about like the film techniques and stuff, it's the two Ryans. It's Coogler and Johnson this
Oh,
year
sure,
for me.
sure.
In terms of people who just brought every tool they had and brought so much craft to the types of stories they were telling that are genre stories that satisfy us on those levels, but have all this
Absolutely.
other stuff under the hood because these are guys that are not just smart about story, but they're smart about cinema and they're smart about like some of those like like that you can do all these effects in camera and you can do all this lighting stuff he does where when people are talking about their belief and their
Oh,
truth,
man.
and suddenly someone's standing in the dark versus standing in the light, and it's like maybe it's on the nose, that's not subtle, but it's very effective. And
Yeah.
over the course of a movie, I think going back and watching it a second or a third time, tracking that stuff, it's almost like you could do a class based on it to say like
Totally agree.
why is this shot framed this way, why is this character, why is this person in shadow and this person in the light. It all seems like it means something.
Yeah,
So
it's great. It's
yeah,
great.
and we didn't really talk much about Josh Brolin, but he's this is like the kind of part that he can just ace. Like
Yeah.
there's something about this guy that is kind of charming and alluring, but he's so like gone to seed, and he just doesn't. He seems he's corrupted by you don't know quite by what or what his mission is, and you find out more across the movie. But
Right.
I liked how much they kept his character in the film even after his his untimely demise. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that needed to be said. Ronald, do you have any other thoughts about Wake Up Dead Man?
Loved it. Loved it. 10 out of 10.
There was a quote that it's not in the movie, but it got me to thinking about it, and I had to look it up to see if it's attributed to anybody. And it's a famous saying by Oscar Wilde, apparently. But the quote that I was thinking of in relation to this was various variations on this I've heard, but every saint has a past and every sinner has a future.
Mm.
Great.
And I really think this movie kind of hits in that spot of like, because with Josh O'Connor's character, this super gentle man who we know is full of love, his past, like what he's done in the past, is a legitimately heavy thing. And the way they introduce that early in the movie and then add to it as we go, and it doesn't weigh this character down. It's just one of those things that feels like it's Rian Johnson knowing how to modulate that stuff. And I will say one other thing too. I thought it was cool that the movie started and we feel like we are seeing the letter that Father Judd is writing to bring Benoit Blanc into the case.
Yeah.
But that's not what that is, that opening narration. I just thought that was a really cool... that Rian Johnson, one of the things he's done with Poker Face, I think, is maybe gotten really good at figuring out like, oh, this character is going to come rolling into this story at some point. So just like on Poker Face, you'll spend there like half an episode wondering how Natasha Lyonne is going to stumble into the story. This Benoit Blanc he comes in at like 40 minutes into the movie or something like that. And there's so much that's happened at that point. You're ready for him to come in and start making sense of it. But you think you know the way he's going to come in, and it's not quite the way you expect. I just feel like that's a very Rian Johnson. That kind of playfulness feels very like something he likes to do. It's not like a fake out style of storytelling, but he does like to keep you guessing and make you think you know stuff that you don't really know. So I would say, stay. Don't go see it. If you can go see it, I don't know if it's still playing anywhere, but stay at home and see it.
Right.
However, Netflix tabulates what's a success. Although it doesn't really matter at this point. I don't think that Netflix has whatever the next movie is. Rian Johnson is free to go to another outlet with it. I think I did hear him say he's going to start calling them Benoit Blanc mysteries and not Out mysteries. But
really?
That makes more sense. Frankly.
Oh, wow. What's next? You got your physical media you wanted to bring up? Ronald? You got something big?
Oh yeah.
Something so big.
So
it's huge. It's huge.
It's huge. So minding my business, and this is a credit to you, Steve.
Oh, here we go. I love this already.
You got me into Facebook Marketplace. I always have the term media player just put in there. I'm like, okay, media player, looking up stuff.
Right.
I'm always looking for a cheap Xbox or something like that because my cousin wants a new one. And then I saw a thing for a Kaleidoscape in Rockville. Oh God, can I put it against my? Yeah. So I'm like, Rockville, what the fuck? So it's like more than 50% off of it. I'm like, this can't be real. So I'm like, hey, this guy leaves a number. He has this heavy Italian accent. He's like, I love it. I just cannot use it because, and he's talking about how he likes Italian movies and he can only really watch Italian movies on the Apple TV.
Oh, wow.
There's no other platform that offers quite as much. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to sell the Kaleidoscape. If you want to come see it, it's real. I'm selling it for cheap because I got it directly from a dealer and it's brand new. And I was like, oh my. So I went to go visit him. This guy is a film fanatic and super cool. Had a nice little home theater set up. And I bought a Kaleidoscape.
Nice.
It's kind of my Christmas gift to myself. And I think it's gonna pay itself off for a couple reasons. I'm gonna record an actual review so that people understand what this thing really is. Because on the surface, it sounds like I'm just blowing smoke up people's ass. Like it's a device that gets uncompressed audio and video. But I just learned two things that I want to talk about when I do the review. But they have so say if you have this device, you've spent an astronomical amount of money, but you want to start getting digital. You want to start getting some films. If you have a Blu-ray player, a Blu-ray external player, you can hook it up to the Kaleidoscape and it'll catalog movies that you physically have already and deep discount them. So, for example, I had a copy of E.T., put E.T. in there. I'm like, oh, this thing, $25 it costs digitally for uncompressed audio, video, 4K. It took it down to $4 for a copy of E.T. Wow. So that's the kind of thing that they kind of do to get you into the system. And there may be a collaboration, hopefully early next year, with Kaleidoscape, where we may be reviewing some Kaleidoscape stuff from time to time. So they'll, we'll get some credits. I can watch, maybe I'll have a movie or something. And the cool thing is, it's just the HDMI device. So whoever has the biggest TV at the time with the,
That's
I can
amazing.
just take it to your house, take it to, and we can just
Nice.
watch it wherever we go. So it's a pretty cool system. I'd like to thank them for hearing me out about the idea of a possible collaboration. And hopefully next year we'll be reviewing some Kaleidoscape movies. Yeah.
Yeah, so like for people that don't know, I've read up a little bit on it just because I've heard people mention it over the years. But like, it's basically just a super uncompressed
Yeah.
video and audio that would like elevate the whatever you're used to,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
from your home system, and take full advantage, perhaps even
Yes.
of if you have a great screen or a great sound. Did it all freeze for you, Steve, or just for me?
Yeah, he froze.
There he is. You're back.
I didn't hear anything you said, John. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, you froze when I was basically just saying that like this is just something that like maybe it allows you to take full advantage of the screen you have or the sound system you have that up till now you've been watching slightly compromised streams or whatever. This is a platform that really allows you to maximize. I mean, this is like the pros in their home theaters have this
For sure.
this piece of gear.
They get what's called a mezzanine.
Does that make you a pro
copy.
now?
I don't know. I don't think so. Not quite yet.
You're a
I
prosumer.
only have 2 movies on it so far. I have Tron, Ares, and Sinners. 2 amazing movies, but not quite. I think I'll be a pro once I have 9 or 10 movies. Oh no.
You must be firing up that Kaleidoscape now.
No, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm not near anything.
Hey, where do you
with
get
it.
the movies?
I'm sorry.
No, I said, where do you get the movies? Is it like, where do you get the files? Is it just you take a 4K file and you play it from this platform? Like, how is that?
Oh, it has its own stores.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a storefront.
All right.
There's a storefront, and when you do the disc to digital, it shows up as a digital offer. So I have like 10 $4 movies that I need to purchase pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, like this would be a good like deep dive into it once you're in it really deep because like it makes me very curious. Like when you're talking about physical discs that you have, and how it allows you to be able to whatever, like transfer it into this platform, like the mezzanine file that it gives you.
Yeah.
Does it just let you take what you have in lieu of doing that?
It got as soon as you started asking me the question, you cranked up the question. I couldn't hear anything you said. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, I guess I get into this more when you start to use it more, maybe in a deeper review that you do. But I was just kind of curious. I was reading a little bit about it too, and it was saying like you could take your physical discs that you have and you can like kind of digitize them in this platform.
Yeah, that's so essentially what they do is like they understand that you have a bunch of discs that you purchased that you would like to watch an elevated version of.
Right.
So what they do is if you can prove it, which means that you scan the disc within the Blu-ray player that's hooked up to the Kaleidoscape,
Right.
it catalogs it. So it says,
Right.
hey, you purchased this, you own this. No, you own this. And then they're like, in exchange for you having a physical copy, we're gonna deep discount that movie since you already have it, which is super cool.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it works out. It's everything. I can tell you one of the people that isn't cheap, fucking Disney. Nothing
course.
Disney. It's like you think you're gonna get a disc. I put Fantasia, and I'm like, I got a copy of Fantasia. Let's see what $2 off of it. And the other studios are taking like the movie may cost $30. You can get it for $3, $4, sometimes $10. You
And
know,
that's because you're proving that you already owned a copy of it.
yeah, because you're scanning it through this.
Yeah.
Got a little. I just bought one. I went to it looks like I'm blurring it. I went to Micro Center and got a little Blu-ray reader. And I just hook it up through USB. Yeah. Got a little Blu-ray player and scan it. Yeah, so I've done like maybe 10 movies so far.
Wow.
And and then it discounts them, and then I'm gonna purchase them slowly but surely in the next couple weeks. But $3, $4 for a movie is unbelievable. I'm thinking they're gonna be. I'm like, oh, it'll be like $15, $20 for each one. Like, no, it's now that I'm in the system, they're like, okay, we get some
Then
cheap.
they got their hooks in you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
You're gonna
anti-fans
buy
now.
it now.
Yeah,
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's just like this feels like a developing story. We'll have
Yeah.
to see more once you've figured it out. But also, I can't wait to let's have a let's. Yes,
Very cool. John, you said you had a physical
I
thing
believe
too,
I
right?
mentioned this before with the Fantastic Four version of this book, but
Oh yeah.
the Penguin Classics Marvel collection are these. They collect odd issues. Like this has got like the first 3 or 4 issues of the Avengers, and then it's got different issues throughout the run of the comic. So you get like key moments from different characters. It really does feel too like it's kind of a little bit in tandem with the MCU in the sense that you get like the first appearance of Valkyrie in here. You get the first appearance or one of the first appearances of well, not so much first appearance, but an important Black Panther issue when he was in the team. So an interesting thing if you're interested in the kind of comic book history, and if you're especially interested in where the source material for a lot of the current movies and stuff comes from. But also it gives you a little bit of an overview of just the history. I mean, that was the comic that started in 1963. They print letters pages from some of the issues in here, and the main reason I wanted to bring it up on the show is that if you wonder when like toxic nerd fandom culture started, as early as 1963 or 4, there are people writing in letters saying, Captain America shouldn't be in this comic. You shouldn't be doing this. The Hulk is boring. The Hulk shouldn't be in this comic. You shouldn't have so many this. You shouldn't have so many that. In 1970, there is a letter from a fan who's writing in response to another letter from a previous letters page where I think someone wrote in with complaints maybe about some of the racial dynamics of the story. And this person is like writing a sort of reactionary rebuttal to the person who's talking about the racial dynamics. And so it's a little bit of the white privilege person writing in a long letter going point for point saying, basically like making excuses for why it's not regressive that comics had such a hard time in introducing black characters and that sort of thing. So anyway, I guess I'm just saying if you're thinking that fandom is a new type of fandom, maybe it's more vocal now or more toxic now, but as long ago as the 60s, the people that were writing into these comics were as likely to be cool fans. You can tell a lot of the people are just like, like nerds that are kind of lovable. And then there's these other people that's like, there was already such a thing as toxic nerd fandom, even in the early days of these characters. So made me feel a little bit better about our modern era. Not much, because things are just getting worse every day if you're out there on social media looking at the discourse around this kind of stuff. But I did find it kind of funny that like, okay, yeah, even back then there was a, well, actually sort of guy swooping in to ruin the fun. And the other thing I think is just kind of interesting, somewhere in the introduction, they said this thing that's like, I thought was a good observation. They were saying that if the X-Men is about found family and Fantastic Four is about biological family, the Avengers is about having a good job. and like working at the top of your field. And I do think there's something kind of interesting about that like these different teams have this idea of like, what is the basis of the team? What is the core of this team? A lot of times it is family. Like Guardians of the Galaxy is a found family. X-Men is a found family. The Avengers is not that. The Avengers really is like a bunch of people at the height of their field that are working together for whatever period of time they can stand to, you know? And that's what the comic always was. Like very early in the comic, you had like some key characters leaving because they were too powerful, and then less powerful characters coming in, and so many different versions of Ant-Man being Giant Man and being Yellow Jacket and being Goliath. And I mean, it's just interesting to see that they were trying so many different things, but that idea of flux and who's on the team and why they're there, it was there from the start. Like very early in the comic, they had already had different iterations of the team. So it's kind of interesting that they've stayed true to that with the movies. The idea of like, who's the current Avengers team? It was never like a static thing that was just set in stone. Even in the early days of the comics, they were shifting that around. So I found that just kind of interesting as far as a basis for like why they're doing things the way they are in the movies. That in some ways it's it's very true to the spirit of these early comics. So yeah, fun read. And I mean, I'm into the sort of history of it. If somebody really likes, I don't know that there was any issue in here that I thought was just like a fantastic comic story outside of the kind of importance of it, but you really could feel how this idea of putting all the characters in one comic was really, it represented to the comics a similar thing that the Avengers movie did to the movies, of just saying like, can they do this? Can they have this sort of comic that feels big budget because it's got all these big budget sort of feeling heroes in it? And you know, it's been that way ever since. Like that's always been the goal of the Avengers as a team. So there's others in this Penguin series. I don't know if I'll pick them up, but there's one for Thor, one for Spider-Man, one for X-Men, and it's really all about showing you the formative days of those characters. But I would say, yeah, I'm sure in your local bookstore you can find all those different things. So pick your poison, pick your favorite Marvel character, and look for the Penguin Classics Marvel Collection. I enjoyed the Fantastic Four one and this one. I really did feel like, for all my comic nerdery, I understood those teams more than I ever had before from reading those collections. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, that feels like an episode.
I suppose it does.
I suppose it does. Yeah.
I suppose it does. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, yes.
We'll be off next week, like I mentioned earlier, but we'll be back the week of New Year's to go over anything else we've watched. I'm sure there will be something exciting, and also we'll get to John's pick for Return to Oz. Movieschmovie.com is the website. If you go there, you can listen to the podcast on the website directly, or jump into any podcast platform. If you want to subscribe to the podcast in its audio form, you can also go to youtube.com/movieschmoviepodcast. You can listen, you can watch long, watch short. You can do all kinds of stuff on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out, YouTube's pretty cool. You can subscribe. If you do, please be sure to hit the little bell to get notifications when new items hit the channel. Any of those things would be much appreciated if you could just do one of them. If you did more than one, I mean, I just don't know if we could handle it, but it would be it'd be really exciting to see what happens to us if you did more than one of those things. I don't think it's ever happened, but something will shift in the world, I think, and one of us will probably explode, but it's hard to say. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And as always, you've made our day. Thanks.
Bye.